had to be the best edit that I have ever watched of me. Who made this? I gotta watch that again. What the fuck?
You've probably seen this edit. I mean, you clicked on this video. For those who haven't, it's from a creator called Sanchezae. And this video has been blowing up recently. And I thought it's a perfect excuse to teach After Effects while breaking it down. At first glance, it looks complicated. But it's kind of not. Now, if you never touched After Effects, you might struggle to follow some of this. But if you made anything in AI, you're good to go. So, this is episode 3 of the breakdown series, what began as the unfiltered breakdown series. Yep, no more unfiltered. So, the whole point of this series is simple. Teach you After Effects by breaking down edits, animations, or whatever there is. Now, first of all, this is a full breakdown of the entire video. I know. But hear me out. It took a lot of my time. Not the main part, the AI part probably took a few hours. The real pain was, the real time consuming part was finding the damn clips. More than half of my time went into that. It turned into this whole another side quest. And yeah, you might think, come on, these are obvious clips. Well, not for me. I don't follow them that closely. The first 2 clips were easy to find. Google Lens scored me there in like seconds. But this one I just couldn't find it. I started off simple, tried different keywords on Google, YouTube, and Instagram. And the results was not even close. Then I tried image search, took a frame from the video and put into Google Lens. Still nothing. Even tried a couple of AI tools. No luck. I even asked my friends. They also had no clue. At that point, I was like, okay, let's try Reddit. Posted on some Ronaldo subreddits. The mods were taking like forever to approve my post. Time just went on and this was all for one clip. I was so close to giving up. Then out of nowhere, I get a notification from Reddit. Someone commented with the exact clip I needed. But I already found the clip by then. It was kind of funny. You might ask, how did I find it? Well, basically I masked Ronaldo out, dropped it into Google Lens, and there it was. I know some of you might be laughing right now, but I just didn't know. Anyway, you are getting a breakdown of the first 5 seconds. Not a lot, but trust me, you'll learn a lot. Okay, these are the 3 clips. The first one is from the Sideman Chatty League, that YouTuber match. And the second is from his China tour trailer. And the third one, that's from the Nike's Risk Everything ad campaign. The one with Ronaldo and Neymar. All the links to these videos are in the description. Plus the final project file. And a setup project file with that you can follow along with me. So let's start with the first clip. Double click on the video. That opens in the layer panel. Now trim the part you want using these 2 icons. In point, that's your start, and out point your end. And click this icon to drop into the timeline. Do the same for the other 2 clips. Now let's line them up. I am going to pre-compose each layer. For starters, pre-composing is like putting multiple layers into a single folder, so you can treat them as one. You might ask, why pre-compose a single layer? Well, first it isolates the layer, so you don't get that long as ghost bar showing the full length of the footage. Second, it's way easier when you are rotoscoping or time remap. The shortcut is Ctrl+Shift+C. Okay, I have split this video into 3 parts, one for each clip. Let's start with the first one. I'll isolate this layer by hiding the other 2. Just turn off this icon next to the layers you want to hide and toggle this switch to hide. Next, I'll trim the work area to just cover the first clip. That way After Effects will only focus on this section and ignore the rest. Alright, setup's done. Now we are going to play a game. Do you remember that game where we look at 2 almost identical images and spot the difference? Yeah, we are going to do a similar thing here. We are going to analyze the original footage and the edit and evaluate the difference. So, what are the changes you are seeing here? Just on the surface level. First thing I notice is the logo is different. Then the bottom text is changed and finally the background. So that means we need to separate Speed as a cutout since the new logo is behind him. And we also need to remove the old elements and fill those areas cleanly so no one notices the cut. Then we'll drop in the new logo and text. Now let's cut out Speed. And we are going to do a process called rotoscoping. But there are a few things to keep in mind before we get into the rotoscoping part, just to make things easier. First, make sure there is no frame rate mismatch between comps. Second, set your comp resolution to full. And another thing I personally do before rotoscoping is that I go inside the comp of the footage and boost the overall contrast and sharpness and even a saturation of the footage. Basically, how roto works is, it looks at the footage and tries to detect all this contrast between pixels. It's trying to find the edges, the difference between the subject and the background, so it knows what to cut out. So by boosting contrast and making the subject pop more, we are actually helping to do a better job. I made a preset for this. You can find in the description. And I'm going to apply that preset here. And yeah, it's packed with a bunch of effects. But you don't actually need all of them. I just threw in a bunch to get more control of the footage. The effects levels, brightness, curves are for contrast. Unsharp mask and sharpen. You guessed it, to sharpen the edges. Hue and saturation is just simply to push colors. But yeah, we shouldn't go extreme with it. Right now you can see the artifacts and oversaturation which actually make it worse. So I'm going to just dial down a few of the effect values. Okay, I think that's good to go now. And keep in mind, it's not going to do a big magic or something, but yeah, it definitely helps. Select the rotor brush tool and double click the footage. That opens in the layer panel. This green circle is our brush. I'll just draw a small stroke on speed and it instantly grabs the whole subject. Now I'll draw him out fully. If you overdrawn or spill some area, you can just hold Alt. That will turn the brush into red and you can erase that area. Quick roto tips. Ctrl plus mouse left, click and drag, resize the brush. Alt plus scroll, zoom into where your cursor is. Hold scroll wheel and drag so that it can move around. These 4 icons here show different cutout views. This one shows the silhouette. Double click on any icon to go back to full cutout. Now we are going to scrub forward in time. If anything shifts, fix it as you go. You also got this refine edge tool which is great for tight areas like hair. There is some hair here but I think this is already good enough. Once you are done, click freeze. It will process and lock in the mask. I'm happy with the cutout. Now let's remove the pre-roto effects inside the comp we applied. Press Ctrl plus Shift E to delete all the effects at once. Okay, let's go back to the main comp. I'm going to duplicate this layer. The bottom one, I'll rename it player card and remove the roto effect. The top one, the cutout, I'm going to pre-compose it, just so nothing messes with the roto effect. And this one, I'm going to call it speed cutout. Now, I'm going to solid the player card layer. We are going to do a simple masking for the card. Select the rectangle tool and with our layer selector, draw a rough mask around the card. It's not perfect, but I'm going to reveal the mask properties by pressing M twice. Then I'll change the mask type from add to none. And now we can properly adjust the mask to get a perfect cutout. Use your arrow keys to move the mask around. Now let's change back to add. I'm going to pre-compose this layer again. Okay, now's the part where we remove these elements. Simply pick the pen tool and draw around the logo and text. We are going to fill this area using the content aware fill in After Effects. If you can't find this panel, you can enable it from the Windows dropdown. Now, the way this works is it looks at the layers in the timeline and checks for transparent area to fill. And because I soldered this layer, it's only looking at this one. You can see it detected these transparent areas here. But it's also taking the background into account, which I don't want to fill. So what I'm going to do is go inside this comp and turn off the mask for now. Make sure the range is set to work area and trim the work area to just 1 frame. Now click generate fill layer. A new layer will appear in the timeline and it does a pretty good job filling those areas. To finish it up, stretch the fill by holding Alt and expand it across the duration. Now we can turn the mask back on. Let's unsolid this layer. Now all we have to do is just place the text and logo. After that, simply pre-compose all of it. Now for the background image, I got this one online. It's not the exact same, but it's close. Put that image behind all of the layer. Now we are going to recreate this bursting light rays effect. In the original version, I think it's an overlay or something, but I'm not entirely sure. I tried my best to figure it out, found similar stuff online, but I couldn't track down the exact one. Again, not sure if it's really an overlay. Either way, I was determined to recreate it, and I did. Obviously, it's not a perfect match, but I'd say it's pretty close. So, create a solid layer and apply the fractal noise effect. Set the fractal type to Rocky and increase the contrast. We are going for this exact look. So, open the transform section, uncheck the uniform scaling, crank up the scale height to like 2000, and lower the width to around 30. In the sub settings, set the subscaling to 40 or something. Now I'm going to animate the offset turbulence to look like it's falling down. We can use an expression to do that, but let's keep it simple. Simple keyframing. Next, animate the brightness. It starts from nothing, stays for a few frames, then fades out. Something like this. Now apply the polar coordinates effect. Basically, this effect converts flat things into round, or vice versa. Set it to rect to polar and bump the interpolation to 100%. This is exactly what this effect does. We need to scale this up, so apply a transform effect before polar coordinates. That way it won't lose the quality, and scale it up. Now, let's make the black background transparent. For that, apply the extrude effect. Make sure the channel is set to luminance. Turn on the transparency view, then increase the black point to around 200 and black softness to 100. Next, I am going to make a bunch of duplicates. Change some value, make one thinner, one thicker, and offset the timing to create variations. Now we are going to cut out the center part. Create a circle in the center of the comp, apply the effect fast box blur, and increase the blur amount. Set the blending mode to silhouette alpha. That will cut out the center area. Now let's color this thing. Create an adjustment layer, apply the 4 color gradient effect, and let's try to match the colors of the original version. Recompose all of this, and place it between the cutout and the color. Now I'm going to add the CC glass effect to this. Toggle the surface section and set this option to 0. Then apply a glow effect. Any glow is fine, place it above the CC glass effect, and set its blending mode to add. And duplicate this layer. In the duplicate, go back to the CC class effect and change the softness to 90. We're almost there. In the original, you can see the rays are interacting with the background. So we'll set up that too. Create an adjustment layer above this card layer. Apply the displacement map effect. Duplicate the burst layer and rename it to map. We are going to use this as a map layer to make the distortion. Remove all effects from the map layer, go back to displacement map effect and navigate to the map layer and increase both of these values. Now if you look closer, you'll see it's distorting, but I don't like the sharpness of it. So I'm going to apply a blur to the map layer to soften it. Nothing changes at first because we need to tell the displacement map effect to include the effects. Go back to displacement map and set the source to effects and mask. Also apply a symbol choker to the map layer to thicken it a bit. That gives us this. You can always go back inside the comp and tweak things until you're happy with how it's look. And also let's add some close to the logo and this text. Phew, that's done. I know that the trajectory of this tutorial kind of changed. For someone who's new to this program, this will definitely be overwhelming. I wish I could go in depth about all of this in a beginner friendly manner, but I'm kind of chained by the time and algorithm, so to speak. Alright, now we are going to do this insane movement and transition. But really it's all just simple keyframe. Yeah, no shit. First I'm going to disable this burst animation layers for now because they'll slow us down. We'll start with this revealing movement. We are ignoring all the other stuffs going on here for now. Just focus on the motion. All of the movement here is just scaling in and scaling out. So let's match that. Create an null object and parent all the layers to it. Press S to open up the scale property and create a keyframe. Obviously we are trying to match the exact timing of the movement. You can just import the original footage here and keyframe along with it. Since I already done that, I'm just going to copy the timing from mine. Create new nulls for each movement so you can overlap keyframes and make the animation feel more natural. Next, for the lens distortion effect, we got two options here. Two effects, CC lens and optics compensation. Both of those effects work differently, but for this look, either one can get the job done. I just simply chose this one. Simple as that. Create a keyframe on the field of view and again look at the reference to time it right. Increase the value around here, but it's distorting in the opposite direction. So just tick this checkbox to reverse it. Animate alongside the scale. Alright, that's pretty close. Now let's create the black bars and the dark edges. It's basically a V-Knit. Create a solid layer, apply the CC Jaws effect. Set the shape to block and drop the height to 0. Animate the completion to get that black bars animation. This runs throughout this entire part. So again check the reference and animate it accordingly. Then create another adjustment layer and apply the V-Knit effect. Increase both the amount and angle of view to match the look and animate it. In the original version, the brightness was also animated. You can see it going up and down. We'll do that using the exposure effect. Animate the exposure value. And also there is this wavy distortion going on at the start if you look closely, which is achieved by the effect turbulent displacement. Create an adjustment layer and apply the effect turbulent displacement. And set the amount value to 45 and scale to 370 and create a keyframe. And move forward about 20 frames and set the amount value to 0 and scale it up to 500 and make the easing more at the start. Finally add some color correction and blurs. Let's now turn the burst layers back on. And I also enable the motion blurs for the footage layers. And that gives us this. That was a lot, wasn't it? Now we are moving on to the second clip. This one has fewer steps compared to the first one. If you take a look, the difference is there is a text behind it and some simple movements. And about the text, it's not just sitting behind him, it's actually moving along with the camera of the footage. That means we need to do a thing called camera tracking. But before any of that, we obviously need to cut out speed first because the text is behind him. And yes, we are going to do it exactly how we did before, rotoscoping. Since we already know how to do it, I'm going to fast forward this part. I duplicated it and removed the rotor effect. So now we have two layers. One is the cutout and second is the background. Just like we did the first one. Now we are going to do the camera tracking on this layer. But I'll pre-compose it first, just for the convenience of focusing on this layer only. Next, right click on the layer and go to track and stabilize and select track camera. Afterwards, we'll analyze the footage and after a few seconds, you'll see a bunch of track points appear across the scene. If you hover over them, AI shows a 3D plane aligned to the scene surface at the spot. Basically, it's visualizing the perspective at that point. But you'll notice something. The right side of the shot has ton of track points, while the left side has barely any. That's a problem because we want to place our text on the left side. This happens because AI tracker relies on high contrast and textures, and the right wall is full of it, clean bricks, sharp edges. But the left side though is covered with this glowing light, which kills the texture. AI doesn't know what to track there. So we are going to help it. Just like when we enhance the contrast for rotoscoping, we'll do the same here. Inside the pre-comp, create an adjustment layer and draw a mask around the weak tracking area using the pen tool and apply the curves effect and boost the contrast in that region with a sharp S curve. Then add some mask feather to blend it. Now reapply the camera tracker. Right click the layer again, track and stabilize, and select track camera. This time you'll see way more tracking points on the left side, and AI is finally able to calculate a correct perspective in that zone. Now I'm going to hover over the track points until I find one that aligns nicely with the wall where I want the text. This one looks good, the plane matches the wall perspective. I'll click on it and select the associate track points. Then right click and choose Create Solid and Camera. This isn't the only way to do it, but it's the method I prefer because it gives me direct control over the surface. You'll see why soon. Afterwards, create a new camera and a solid in the timeline. You can now delete the camera tracker effect from the layer. We don't need it anymore. Next, pre-compose the solid layer. Take the leave all attributes into the new composition and name it something like text. Go inside that comp and create your text. Now, I wanted to explain how I recreate the text, but I don't have much time to go through it. It's fairly simple though. If you check the project file I provided, you'll see exactly how it's made. I'm just going to import it here. We can now delete the solid layer. We don't need it anymore. Now, if you go back, you'll see the text is tracked perfectly onto the wall. You can adjust the perspective, rotation, position, and scale. If you go back to the main comp, and since we already cut out speed and placed him on top, the text appears behind him in the scene, just like we want. Now we are going to complete the transition and effects. Let's start with the first movement, the zooming out from this point. Create an object and parent the layers to it. Set a keyframe on position, scale, and rotation. Then move this keyframe forward a few frames. Follow the reference to match the timing exactly. Now zoom into that point and set the rotation to around -30. He sees those keyframes. Then adjust the graph to speed up the start of the animation. Now for the effects, let's start with the lens distortion. We are going to use the same effect we used in the first clip, opticompensation. Take the reverse lens distortion box, create a keyframe on the field of view, move it forward a few frames, and crank the value up to around 96. Give it the same easing as the camera movement at the start. The original version, there is also this wavy distortion, like the one we used in the first clip. Also, the brightness is animated too. I'm just going to copy the ones we already created earlier for the first clip and paste them here. And adjust the keyframe to match the shot's duration. And finally, for the transition at the end, create another null object and parent it. Keyframe the scale and increase towards the end. Then adjust the graph to speed up the end of the animation. Lastly, I'm going to color correct to match the original, giving us this. We are entering to the third and final clip of this tutorial. Yep, this one. The clip that took me forever to find. Anyway, it's pretty straightforward. We just need to place the text behind him, and yeah, there is also that background distortion effect going on. It looks super complex, but it's actually not. You can recreate it in just a few steps. Let's start with this text part. You already know the drill. Rotoscope the subject, separate it, and place the text behind him. That's it for that part. Okay, that was cute. Now let's talk about that distortion effect in the background. I think that's what most of you want to know. First, I'm going to pre-compose the background layer and go inside that pre-comp. We are going to use the displacement map effect to recreate this. So I'll quickly add an adjustment layer and apply the displacement map effect. If I crank up the horizontal displacement value, you'll see that the pixels are shifting in a weird way. It looks random, but it's not really random. It's what's actually happening. The displacement map effect looks at the layer underneath. In this case, the footage. It shifts the pixels based on its luminance value. Now I could go deep about how this effect works, but let's keep it simple. Instead of using the footage as the displacement source, we'll create our own grayscale map and animate it. That's how we'll get that blocky distortion. So let's create a solid layer and apply the fractal noise effect. Change the noise type to block, because if you look at the distortion, it's all blocky. Next, increase the contrast and then open the transform settings, uncheck the uniform scaling, scale the width up a lot, and set the height to something like 380. Lower the complexity to 2.5. Now let's animate it using the evolution property. Hold Alt and click on the stopwatch icon and write this expression. Time times 100. In the original version, the distortion speeds up over time. But the thing is, we can animate the expression. But we can use a controller to animate it. So apply this slider control effect. Highlight the value from the expression and use the big wick to the slider control. Now you can animate the speed using keyframes. Set one at the beginning and then crank it up by the end. Turn off the visibility of the map layer because we don't need to see it. Go back to the displacement map effect. Set the displacement layer to the map we just made. Make sure to select effects and mask from the drop down. You should see the effects happening now. From here you can animate the horizontal displacement value and of course experiment with the strength and timing to match the original look. We are not finished yet. I'm going to create another adjustment layer and apply the direction blur. Set the direction to 90 degrees and keyframe the blur length. And at the end, increase the blur to get that smooth directional blur. Now I'll add another effect, wave warp. Set the wave type to smooth noise. Set the direction to 0 degree. Lower the wave width to around 30. Then keyframe the wave height from 0 to 240. This gives you that glitchy distortion. Now let's go back to the main comp. What we are missing here is that edge glow around the distortion. To create that, just duplicate the background layer, the one we just added the effect to. Apply fine edges to the duplicate. Take the invert box and then add a curves effect to increase the contrast. The glow in the original version looks orangish or golden, so apply a tint effect and match the color of the original version. I also added a direction blur here to make it look more smeared toward the end. After adding some glow effects, it starts to look like this. Now for the camera movement, I'll keep it short. Same thing as before. Create an offset, animate scale and position. As for the extra effects, they are the same as the first two clips. So I'm going to just copy paste all of those adjustment layers to here. And that gives us this. Now there is also these particles floating around. That's an overlay you can find online. But if you want to make it on your own, use the particular effect. It's a third party plugin though. Oh boy. I thought this was going to be a short tutorial. But damn. I know I rushed some parts. I mean most part. But it would take forever otherwise. I mean look at it. We passed 20 minutes already. At the very least, I hope I showed you that it's possible to create this kind of thing yourself. And yeah, you can find the project file in the description too, to have a closer look. And drop a comment and let me know what you want to see next. Till then.